Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the differences between the Sagittarius Sun, the Sagittarius Moon and the Sagittarius Rising, so definitely stay tuned. Now this series is an updated version of a series that I made about 4 years ago, so back in 2017. But within the space of 4 years, my understanding of astrology has certainly changed and I've learned a lot of new things. So hopefully I'm able to bring some new, interesting, insightful pieces of information to the table today. Now, I also do recommend that you watch the entire video, even if you're just here for your sun, moon or rising, because things can interlink, okay? And I also further want to say that just keep in mind that things may change depending upon that sun, moon and rising combination you have. And likewise, I just want to say that this is my own analysis. However, certainly feel free to add to the discussion in the comment section down below, because, you know, it's really good to get your feedback. It's good to get your opinions as well. Now, before we do dive into this, definitely make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to, of course, click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have a merchandise store, so if you are interested in picking up any of those pieces, then go to the link in the description box below. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so firstly, I just want to give a brief overview of the sun, moon and rising. Now, these three placements are often referred to as your big three within the astrological community. And many people like to mention them as a way to express their very basic personality. But as most of us know here, astrology goes much, much deeper than these three components. But I still think it's good to learn about these placements, especially if you are a beginner. And if you are more advanced when it comes to astrology, I still recommend watching this series, because who knows, maybe you will learn something new. Right, to begin then, let's start by discussing the sun in Sagittarius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some keywords here associated with the sun. Read through those keywords, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are combined with the sign or with the archetype of Sagittarius? Well, it creates an energy of purposeful exploration, roaming and discovery. Also, it creates an energy of an open-minded, optimistic, honest and inspirational self-expression, of enthusiastic yet exaggerative creativity, along with an energy of individuality based on freedom and one's belief systems. Likewise, it creates an energy of a bigger picture global consciousness, as well as an energy of applause and attention for teaching and preaching. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this sign, meaning that you have the sun in Sagittarius natally? Well, it suggests that you are intrinsically aware of the many possibilities and opportunities that the world has to offer. But you may also be aware of the limitations and the obstacles and restrictions that may exist or get in your way as well. See, on one hand, you may possess all of these aspirations for the future, but on the other hand, there's this part of you that accepts that things may not pan out exactly the way you think, for example, or experiences will come to an end, or certain opportunities, they may be out of reach until a certain point in time. And so in this respect, you're a pretty grounded individual, but you're also pretty idealistic. You're in touch with reality, but you're also in touch with the vision, or with the belief that you hold within your mind that you will sort of, that belief that sort of says to you, I will get to the places that I want to reach, to those places that I strive to go. And you might also consider yourself to be a pretty spiritual type of individual, or as someone who is in touch with your spiritual essence. And if you do resonate or connect with a particular spiritual practice, you will probably live your life according to the message that your spiritual practice or belief communicates. And you may also teach others about this belief or this practice as well. And though I will also say with this that possibly this spiritual belief or practice, this aids you on your quest towards reaching those future aspirations that I've just previously mentioned. And likewise, the same thing, so this same concept can be applied to a religious belief, or it could be applied to a philosophical belief that you have. And it's interesting because I notice with a lot of Sagittarius individuals that I personally know, this can apply to Sagittarius suns, moons, and risings. They typically would say this statement of everything happens for a reason, but of course these philosophical quotes may vary depending on person to person. Though whatever the belief system actually is, or whatever the certain practice is, there's a likelihood of you Sagittarius sun individuals sharing what you know with others, teaching others about what you know and believe to be true. And as you do so, you may get a lot of validation from other people's positive and uplifting feedback. It might satisfy your ego knowing that your messages are being received well, for example, or that the thing that you're sharing or teaching is being applauded and being admired. Though on the other hand, if at any time you feel as if your message is being censored or controlled, you might get pretty mad, or you might retaliate. Now, the same thing can also be said if you feel as if others are ridiculing you or criticizing you. For example, maybe someone says something that you feel is undermining your intelligence, or maybe they are undermining the information that you share based on your valid and reasonable knowledge. Your ego then might not take this very well. And so you might try to outsmart the other person, or you might use your humor or your wit as a way to laugh off the situation. Then again, at times you might come across as pretty brash or as hot-headed, where you speak your piece, you speak your truth quite loudly or strongly as a way to make others understand where you're coming from. And you especially may be unwilling to budge if you are speaking on a subject matter that you know a great deal about, especially if you have credentials or life experiences to back up your points or your arguments. Though on the other hand, you may typically come across as more lighthearted, as more jovial, more humorous, more funny. You're not the types of people who take yourself super, super seriously. And you usually like to keep things in good spirits, where there's a bit of banter going on, where there's a little bit of fun, and you are typically open to hearing different perspectives and viewpoints as well. You can be open-minded, but still, however, whenever your ego, right, of course the sun ego, whenever your ego is hurt, this is when this super brash, loud, and intellectual superiority comes out. Likewise, you're not going to put up with people who come at you. You know, if people come at you, you may be willing to come at them right back. Though, as I said, maybe for some of you Sagittarius suns, you do seek to be appreciated and admired for that funny meme that you shared on Facebook, for example, or for that travel photo that you posted on Instagram, or for that video of the law of attraction that you created on YouTube. Essentially, this is the ego being tied in with teaching and sharing and broadcasting, and also it's tied in with you in a way, you know, speaking your truth, as the saying goes when it comes to the sign of Sagittarius. But to you, it's like, I'll share whatever I want, and nobody is going to tell me otherwise. Nobody is going to tell me what I can or what I can't share. And a similar thing could be said when it comes to your future aspirations and freedoms. For example, you might get into a relationship and you make it very, very clear that this is the path that you are taking and this is where I am headed. So you may say to the other person, you know, you're either in or you're not. You know, you make that very clear. And if the other person is not in, or if they're going to tell you, you know what, oh, you can't do that, Sagittarius individual, then it's like, well, no, bye, okay, this is not going to work. Or let's say, for another example, a family member comes to you and they impose their beliefs upon you, but you do not agree or you don't want to believe in what they believe in. Again, you might not hesitate from saying what you think or believe. You will not stand for it. The following on from this point, you have most likely experienced such things when it came to religion and spirituality growing up. But while some of you may have agreed and followed, others of you may have turned towards a whole other direction. Now, for those of you who agreed and followed, maybe some of you today are very firm. You know, you're very firm in your beliefs, you're very firm in your practice or in your faith. And so what you do is you remain very, very true to whatever these beliefs are. But maybe others of you discovered new or different beliefs later on in your lives, possibly resulting in a bit of an identity crisis or resulting in many questions about life and existence and about why you're here. So it's this whole idea of asking, what is my meaning? Or maybe this question is something that you Sagittarius suns ask just overall. You're forever wondering what your meaning is in this world or where you'll go when you leave this world. Likewise, you may question why people come into your life at a certain time or why people leave your life, or you may think of the lessons people teach you or the experiences that you share with others. Now, for those of you who didn't necessarily agree with a certain belief system growing up, again, maybe you've experienced a bit of an identity crisis, or maybe you set out to discover a belief system that you resonated with and possibly still resonate with today. Maybe for some of you, you were guided, but for others of you, you were left to figure things out on your own. Then again, maybe you strive to purposefully discover things on your own anyway. Maybe you get plenty of validation knowing, hey, I paved the path, or I made the best possible decision here. Like I said earlier, your ego is tied in with your freedoms, and so for you, there's something so freeing in knowing that you set your eye on the prize and you gained the prize. Likewise, it feels good to your ego knowing that your future aspirations are being reached, or that you've discovered a particular belief system that brings you meaning and purpose. But just focusing on future aspirations here, this could look like you starting a company, for example, or this could look like you starting a family, or this could look like you gaining a lot of success for a social media account that you started. Whatever the future aspiration is, you Sagittarius suns will hold it in your vision, and you will most likely direct your life force and your conscious awareness towards it. However, this is not to say that you'll be completely satisfied or happy whenever you reach that future aspiration of yours. See, what can sometimes happen with you Sagittarius suns is you may keep pushing that target further and further, resulting in things like restlessness, unease, overindulgence, and this whole notion of continuously seeking more and more and more. Similarly, there may be too many targets that you're directing your life force towards, leading to you being quite scattered and unreliable. For example, let's say that the target is a house. Then you get the house. Yay, great. But then you're in the house for a couple of years and you start feeling closed in. Maybe you've accumulated a lot of materials and there's no more room to fit anything else in. Instead of clearing things out or reorganizing, you might decide, you know what, let's just buy another house. Or let's say the target is a particular job position. You're on the road to gaining that title, that role, but then other jobs come up and you would maybe love to try and take on these roles and these other positions. So this results in some indecision and you questioning. And so in this respect, you might go back to the drawing board. Naturally, I do understand that these types of situations, they happen all the time in life. And to be honest, I think this shows your dedication, it shows your eagerness, and it shows your enthusiasm, you know, your willingness to try new things and to broaden your mind, to broaden those horizons, so to speak. Yeah, you're very eager people in this respect, always willing to expand. But at the same time, it's also these behaviors that may cause issues and problems within your life. I mean, what if your partner doesn't want something and you do? Or what if you make false commitments to a company or to a role and then you end up letting them down? Or what if you give your attention to a situation or to a relationship and then you change your course of direction entirely? Again, these types of things are going to happen in life, and you may know more than most that people are entitled to change. You know, people are entitled to change their opinions, their ideas, their minds. Yeah, you can be very open-minded individuals in this respect. But the main point that I am trying to get at here is going back to this idea of happiness and how you're typically the types of people who link happiness in with what you pursue, in with what you gain in the future. And also you're linking that happiness in with the ego, further resulting or possibly leading to difficulties with remaining present and in the moment at times. Though I do kind of wonder, is it that you grew up with a father figure who exemplified similar qualities? Maybe he was a restless character, he always had somewhere to be, somewhere to go, or maybe he kept striving to reach those huge targets and goals as a way of showing his love and affection towards you and towards your family. Perhaps he would give you huge gifts as a way of showing you love, as a way of showing you affection. Maybe some of you were quite spoiled in this respect by your father, as he found it difficult to set boundaries with you. Perhaps he would give you more and more and more, or perhaps he instilled in you the idea that happiness is something that you obtain from the future. It's something that you obtain from that future that you create. And to be honest, he probably wasn't wrong, realistically speaking. So maybe he would say something like, whatever you want to be, you go and you achieve it, because if you do, you'll feel so proud of yourself, and so will I. Or maybe he would say something along the lines of, if you want to have a good life, you'd better knuckle down and study. Or if you want to have a decent, fulfilling life, you'd better seize plenty of opportunities, because if you don't, you will regret it. And perhaps he also instilled optimism, hope, faith within you. Maybe he taught you that anything is possible, or that you have what it takes to accomplish your future aspirations, provided that you're up for the adventure, you're up for the journey, you're willing to do it. Still, however, maybe for others of you, there was a distance, maybe there was a distance between you and this father figure. Maybe it could have been a physical distance specifically, but it may have possibly been an emotional one or an intellectual one. For example, maybe him or you traveled quite a bit, or maybe you were actually physically separated due to family issues, or maybe you felt emotionally distant due to family reasons. Or possibly there was a distance when it came to the intellect, where the two of you just weren't on the same level intellectually. Likewise, this intellectual distance may tie in with that emotional distance as well. But what I'm further trying to get to with this is, let's say, for example, that you do develop a new belief system, but that new view of the world, so how it is that you're viewing the world, it may have been very different to how your father viewed the world, and it still may be very different to how your father views the world today. Sure, your father may have been or is an open-minded individual, always willing to listen to your views and your opinions. Likewise, you're probably the same. But at the same time, maybe your two different or opposite views of the world often clash. So following on from this point, you might place much of your attention and your creativity into your intellectual pursuits, Sagittarius suns, and also into your outdoor activities as well. So you might really enjoy reading books, or writing articles and posts online, or you might derive a lot of your enjoyment from quotes that you resonate with online, that you resonate with quite deeply, might I add. Likewise, you might gain a lot of pleasure from getting out into nature and, just from exploring, getting into the outdoors. So you probably like going for walks, really long walks, or you might like hiking or canoeing or camping or taking random trips to beaches or to nature reserves, anything that gets you outdoors and into the wild, basically, because you're wild at heart, people. Though, on the other hand, you might enjoy the party scene, where you get to chat to plenty of different people, or where you get to dance and possibly drink and let your hair down. Though it's not like you can do much of those things today, but then again, you might take the party inside. So with this, you may get pretty creative when it comes to cakes and treats and baking and cooking, or you may get pretty creative in terms of pouring yourself your favorite drink, your favorite cocktail. Yeah, you're typically the types of people who can make light or the best of any situation. And you can be so good at lifting up the mood, lifting up the spirits of others. Yeah, when it comes to your creativity, it can vary vastly. You can almost make anything or place your creativity into pretty much anything and everything. Though what I would say here is, if others dampen your mood, or if they bring down your spirits, especially if others try to sort of fence you in a way, you'll most likely not stand for it. And in this respect, you probably won't tolerate negative people, or people who dwell and sob all day long. Then again, this side of your personality can sometimes blind you from the realities of life at times. It can blind you from seeing into other people's worries and sorrows and their difficulties and their struggles. So you may turn to an individual who is maybe quite upset, going through something, and maybe say something like, cheer up, or don't be so hard on yourself, or, it's gonna get better, it's okay, good times are coming. Whilst the intentions are most likely very good, and it's also, these intentions are very much necessary. You know, we need individuals like you to make our spirits a bit, you know, a bit more lighter and a bit more freeing. But I also think that a part of you finds it difficult to get into the itty and gritty, or the nitty and gritty, nitty and gritty with others sometimes. Sure, you might say things that, yes, are encouraging and positive and uplifting, and you can give others a good lecture when they need it. But I think at times, negativity is something that you may avoid. It's something that you may run away from. Though I wonder, was your father the same? Was a father figure growing up the same for you? Did your father maybe run away from heavy situations or from making difficult situations? Yeah, maybe he presented a funny, jovial character, but underneath he had issues that he was dealing with or battling with. Just a thought, Sagittarius Sun individuals. Still though, you may get a lot from being that person who brightens up other people's day. You might enjoy it when the atmosphere is more positive and lively and lighthearted, where people are having fun and they're laughing and they're telling jokes and they're telling stories. Which, by the way, you may be great when it comes to telling funny stories, especially those types of stories that have a punchline, or stories that have a pretty deep message as well, somewhere in there. Yeah, you can be quite comical and entertaining, and you can certainly be very inspirational to those around you. And I would also say that with your ego may feel really good whenever people laugh at your jokes, or whenever they are giving you plenty of attention whenever you're getting into those stories. And furthering on from this point, you may be a bit of an oversharer, though to you maybe it's not necessarily seen as oversharing. To you it's more so that you're just speaking from your heart, and that's all good. And yeah, you're somebody in this respect who has a lot, you have a lot to share with others, and you may really get a lot from the attention and from the applause that you get for your sharing of your experiences. Now, some astrologers do like to associate the sun with the type of individual that we are striving to become, and then the ascendant being associated with our life path. And so in your case, Sagittarius Sun individuals, perhaps you're striving to become this jovial yet very intellectual type of individual, and perhaps you're also striving to become this individual who's very much confident in your teaching and in your sharing of things. Now, before we do move on to the moon, make sure that you are locating the house placement of the sun, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise, along with other energies that may influence that sun energy. Alright, so moving along, let's now look at the moon in Sagittarius. I'm showing you some keywords here associated with the moon. Read those through, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Sagittarius? Well, it creates an energy of forward planning and future aspirations based on emotional reactions and emotional needs. And it also creates an energy of unconscious freedom, indulgence, generosity, and morality, and of idealistic and scattered emotional needs. Likewise, it creates an energy of open-minded support and caregiving, of intellectualizing one's feelings and emotions, and of emotional patterns and cycles based on expansion, growth, and eagerness. Though what does it specifically say about you if you were born with the moon in Sagittarius, meaning that you have the moon in Sagittarius natally? Well, it suggests that within your family home growing up, there was a lot of movement, travel, changeability, and exploration. And there might have been much distance between family members as well. For example, maybe you and certain family members moved country, or you relocated, or maybe there were regular changes happening within the environment due to frequent trips or movements and restlessness between family members. And so This could have been the likes of you and other family members switching between households, or where you and family members would go back and forth between parental figures and caregivers. Though whatever the case, there seems to be something here in relation to changing things around, possibly resulting in some unease within yourself. I mean, if you did move a few times as a child, you would then have to pack up your stuff and then unpack it all, whilst in the back of your mind, you might have thought to yourself, will I be here for long? Or what's the next step? Or is this where I can settle now? Then again, perhaps you just got used to it. These things just became second nature to you. Still though, one can only imagine the many changes that would happen in your life due to relocating or due to switching your living situations, such as friendship circle changes, school or educational changes, town and city changes, or romantic relationship changes. A lot of different changes here. Yeah, it requires much adaptability in order to settle into new living conditions. And so in this respect, perhaps you're pretty adaptable types of people, Sagittarius moons. You're very good at settling into new environments with ease, but you're also quite good at leaving just as much. You can be very free-spirited in this respect. Though, on the other hand, perhaps this restless way of living is the very thing that helped you plan for your future growing up. Maybe some of you strive for comfort and stability and for security, and so you seek to create a living situation that provides such opportunities. But as you have one foot on the sofa, you have another one on an airplane somewhere. And what I further mean by this is that, well, there's one part of you who may crave safety and comfort, but then there's this other part of you who craves to be out there somewhere in the world, somewhere exploring, somewhere where you can roam. Maybe you set up your future aspirations in such a way where you can do this, where you can achieve this sort of best of both worlds dynamic. So sure, you might love to get out there so you can expand your horizons, but you might also love that feeling you get where you're home, when you're surrounded by family and those that you care about and those that you love. And even when you are home, you may still find things to occupy your need for growth and expansion. So you might watch plenty of documentaries on Netflix, for example, or you might listen to or read plenty of books, or you might bring the diversity of the world into the house through meals that you make or through meals that you order. Essentially, within you, there lies this wildness, this inner freedom, this inner explorer, this inner traveler, but there also lies within you this inner need to broaden your mind and to learn new things. You might really enjoy hearing about other people's personal experiences and their stories, because it means that you're being taught new things that can also be added to what you know. And most likely than not, no conversation or subject is off limits. In fact, you might actually get really annoyed if you ever feel this from others. So let's say someone is discussing a subject that you're really, really passionate about, but that individual is being more reserved, they're being more held back, and they're being a little bit more modest. Well, in actuality, you might prefer to jump in with enthusiasm instead. You might actually be this open book in this respect, where you come across as very candid and with little tact. And you might also come across as possessing this very I do not give a fuck attitude. Basically, if you feel as if you have something to share, you will not shy away from sharing it. You might also have the tendency of oversharing at times as well, similarly to what I said with the Sagittarius suns. Though I guess it depends on how you're feeling. Remember, the emotions are coming into play when it comes to the Sagittarius moon. Like I said, if you're feeling fired up and you're pumped, you'll most likely just go for it and you'll not hold back. But on the other hand, if you're feeling a bit down, a bit gloom, you might not be the best at handling these types of emotions. Though to be fair, not many of us are, you know. Though still, when it comes to you Sagittarius moons, you may have the tendency of really running away from super challenging emotions. Perhaps you write them off as being just far too negative, so you shouldn't give them any of your attention or your energy. And so what you do is you might mask them with this easygoing attitude. For example, right? Let's say a friend or a lover, they've really hurt you. Next time you see them, you may go, oh, hey, whilst not letting on that you're actually really hurting deep down inside. Or let's say a family member is going through a hard time and deep down it bothers you, it's really getting to you. Instead of maybe talking about it or confronting it or maybe reaching out to someone, you decide, screw it, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna party and I'm gonna drink instead, forget all my worries. Essentially, it can be difficult for you to sit in challenging or lower types of emotional states because you don't want to dwell in that space. And similarly, you might intellectualize your emotions where you talk yourself through them. Now, don't get me wrong, do not get me wrong. This can be really useful because this can help you understand and make sense of your emotions and your feelings. But at the same time, you might intellectualize things so much that you come across as intellectually superior, you come across as this know-it-all, as the one who is moral and just and true, come across as someone who is the bigger person. So for example, let's say that you're talking to a spouse or to a parent about a particular issue that comes up. Maybe in this particular situation, you've crossed the line with this spouse or this parent. You were actually inconsiderate towards them. Then the spouse or parent says, hey, Sagittarius moon, that really wasn't cool what you did, that really hurt me. You as a Sagittarius moon individual, maybe guilt, remorse, sympathy start to kind of arise, but instead of facing these feelings, maybe you run away from them by intellectualizing them and then proceeding to come back at that spouse or that parent with an intellectual response, such as you saying something like, who are you to judge me? However, I do think that the older that you get, I think you do learn how to truly just be honest with your emotions and your feelings, even the ones that are difficult to handle, difficult to process, rather than having the tendency of projecting these negative or unsettling ones onto others. I suppose that this is one of the major differences between the Sun in Sagittarius and the Moon in Sagittarius, and that is that the Sun in Sagittarius is more conscious or more aware of upkeeping this happy-go-lucky, optimistic, knowledgeable personality as a way for them to gain attention and admiration, whilst they're also more aware of the their distaste towards super negative people. And rightfully so, rightfully so. There can be certain negative individuals who maybe need to be checked or who maybe need to be avoided. We can't deny that. But when it comes to the Moon in Sagittarius, things may be more unconscious. There may be more of an unconscious element here when it comes to unsettling, heavy emotions that lie within them, which quite honestly may lead Sagittarius moon individuals into reckless behaviors on their part. But as I said though, as you do mature, I think that you do grasp an understanding of these emotions. You sort of learn how to use your intelligence as a tool to help you understand your inner workings. And perhaps by you, in a way, broadening your mind, opening your mind, you in turn can gain a broader insight into what you're feeling and experiencing emotionally as well. In fact, you might become this sage, this wisdomful guru type of individual, so to speak, where you start to really partake in those inner workings that I'm previously talking about. And I suppose that this is another difference between the sun in Sagittarius and the moon in Sagittarius. Because whilst the sun in Sagittarius may seek validation and admiration for being the all-knowing professor or teacher or guide, well, the moon in Sagittarius, you individuals, you might be more passive, a bit more private when it comes to these things. And so in this respect, you might at times feel like, you know what, I don't have to prove myself to anybody. Or maybe the wisdom and knowledge you hold doesn't necessarily need to be shared and broadcasted to the entire world. Or maybe there's great wisdom found in speaking your truth, no matter what other people think. Yeah, I think for this reason, Sagittarius moons are more of a, I really just do not give a fuck attitude. It's maybe a bit more stronger within them in comparison to the Sagittarius suns. And I also think with this that maybe Sagittarius suns overshare a bit more in comparison to Sagittarius moons. Then again, perhaps it depends on the situation. I mean, if it's the Sagittarius sun's ego getting involved, maybe there is more of that likelihood to just come out with it. And then also with the Sagittarius moons, if you're feeling a certain way, basically it depends on how you're triggered emotionally, you know? Though I would also say here, I think you may be quite protective when it comes to the knowledge you know, Sagittarius moons. Also when it comes to your belief systems, there's a level of protection here. So sure, you might feel as if you don't need to prove yourself to others, right, as I kind of mentioned, but still, as I was sort of saying, when you're triggered, right, when you're triggered emotionally, oh my gosh, there's no stopping you from speaking your piece. So, for example, this could be someone questioning your actions or your faith. You might fire back with preaching words or with criticisms, or you might get into an argument as you go in for the kill with a strong direct message based on your beliefs. I suppose, as I say, it depends on the height of the situation. It depends on what is actually going on. But still, whenever you feel attacked by someone over your beliefs, that those beliefs mean a lot to you, you can become flooded with really passionate emotion whilst you struggle to see things from a logical perspective. Then again, whenever you get into this mindset, again, as I was saying earlier, there can be this tendency of you running away from these things. Though, in this respect, you might possess an attitude of, do not test me. Again, though, these things, they may ease with age, with maturity, with understanding. But I think what others should understand when it comes to you is that you can be quite the fanatic when it comes to your beliefs, whether these beliefs be religious, philosophical, spiritual. So if you follow a certain religious practice, for example, you will most likely devote yourself to that religion and all that it stands for. Or if you follow a certain spiritual practice, same thing. Though following on from this point, perhaps you grew up with a mother influence, who was the same. Maybe she devoted herself to God or to a higher power, or maybe she was quite a free-spirited individual, someone who was always trying out different spiritual practices and activities, or maybe she was forever roaming and exploring and taking trips abroad or around the country. You know, this could have even been where you and your family would often travel to different countries, or you would go out to different places around your own country, and it was your mother who would be at the forefront, you know, showing you all these different things and teaching you about all these different places and all the different stories associated with them. Or maybe you grew up with a mother figure who was very preachy. She would preach this and that about what you should or shouldn't do. Or maybe she was always passing judgment on others or condemning others for their sins. Or possibly she instilled in you a particular religious or spiritual belief. Then again, maybe for some of you, your mother or this mother figure find it really hard to teach you anything due to your eagerness to roam and be free yourself. Maybe she instilled in you this inner need for freedom, and she would lose her temper whenever she realized that you weren't listening to her or following her guidance. Then again, there might have been a distance between you and this mother figure. Sagittarius moons, such as you living in separate houses or her traveling whilst you were growing up. And perhaps this distance between you and your mother, or between you and your family overall, led to you becoming a pretty independent person. Someone who can travel to other countries on your own, or someone who can live in separate countries from loved ones. Though, again, similarly to the father figure, maybe there was a distance for you Sagittarius moons between you and this mother figure when it came to emotions. So quite perhaps, maybe whilst you were taught by her in an intellectual way, maybe there was a lack of that emotional connection between you and her growing up. Essentially though, it's your upbringing, Sagittarius moon individuals, that has taught you it's taught you how to be this explorative, independent person. And this actually leads me on to your emotional needs, because it suggested that you're the type of person who requires space within your relationships and just overall. And as I mentioned earlier, you might align your future aspirations with your emotional needs as well. So you might seek out a career, for example, that fuels your emotional need for freedom and exploration, or you might study an educational course that fuels your emotional need for doing what you believe to be morally correct and true. The following on from this point, your moral compass may run very deep, where you align your opportunities with your morals or with your ethics. Still, however, there's a potentiality of your emotional needs being scattered and idealistic at times as well, leading to you thinking things like, I don't know what I want right now, or I'm not sure how to make best of this situation. It's as if your emotional needs can get pulled in all of these different directions at times. Then again, maybe it's this wanting more feeling that pulls you in different directions. And this is another difference between the sun and the moon, I suppose, because whilst the sun in Sagittarius ego is seeking more, the moon in Sagittarius emotions are seeking more, and can't help but think that, and I can't help but think that these restless, super eager emotions, they are connected with your upbringing. And this is also why I think it might be a good idea for you to talk to a friend or to a parent or to a lover due to these, just, I suppose you could say, just these emotionally overwhelming times. You can become very overwhelmed emotionally, Sagittarius moons, especially if you're feeling frantic and scattered, because these things can lead to the likes of anxieties and hypertension and so on. And to be honest, my dad has a Sagittarius moon, and he can certainly be like this. He can have the tendency of taking on far too much, and then he gets really stressed out. Though I suppose this leads me on to the last point that I want to touch on, and that is to do with how you deal with emotions. So you might prefer to go for a nice walk, or you might prefer to get out into nature, or you might simply just, like I said earlier, prefer your space as a way to kind of help you through your emotions. So this could look like you just taking some time to breathe, or some time to yourself away from just the busyness of life. And I do think that you can learn a great deal from understanding your emotional patterns and cycles, kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. And you're typically the types of people who strive to grow past repetitive, unresolved emotional cycles as well, for example. And you also may seek to expand on emotional cycles that push you onto bigger and better things within your life. Now, before we move on to the Ascendant, make sure that you are locating the house placement of the moon, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out within. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise along with other energies that may influence that moon energy. Okay, so moving on to the rising sign / the Ascendant in Sagittarius. I've got some keywords associated with the rising / Ascendant here. Read those and take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Sagittarius? Well, it creates an energy of a larger than life physical appearance, of open and exaggerative mannerisms and body movements, of expansive global worldviews, and of an honest and fair-minded self-identity. Likewise, it creates an energy of generous energy levels, along with an energy of expansive self-discovery, as well as an energy of a teaching life path. But what does this suggest specifically about you if you were born under this rising sign, meaning that you have a Sagittarius rising / Sagittarius ascendant natally? Well, it suggests that you see the world through this lens of opportunity, discovery, and expansion. So you might seize each and every day with a sort of outlook of opportunity, for example, as you sort of see where new and interesting opportunities can be had, or you might seek to discover something new and thrilling by being open to new experiences or by being spontaneous and bold. Or you might continuously be thinking, what can I do today as a way to forge my path towards the future that I want to build for myself? And that path or that direction may forever just be churning in the back of your mind, and when the time strikes, you may be called to action. And so you leap into action with passion and with enthusiasm and with optimism, Sagittarius risings. For example, maybe a friend calls you out of the blue and says, hey, do you want to do something fun? And so you jump on the opportunity, just no questions asked. Or maybe you're the one who texts your friend saying, do you want to go for a hike tomorrow? Yeah, there's basically this impulse within you that wants to get up and go. And when that impulse speaks, it can be very difficult to control. Now, this may especially be true when it comes to your younger years, Sagittarius risings. And if you are more of a younger Sagittarius rising, then perhaps you resonate more so with what I'm saying. Though either way, it's suggested here that you find it difficult to manage your desires to act on things, your impulses to act on things, partially because you're so eager, right? You're so eager to learn, you're so eager to try new things and to jump in. You're so eager to get involved with those exciting and spontaneous sides of life. So maybe growing up, you would jump on the first opportunity you had to go to a party, for example. Or you would jump on the first opportunity to explore the unknown, or to go out with friends, or to go on a trip with your family, or to go traveling with your friend's family. So it's this whole innocent attitude of doing things now rather than not doing them and then regretting your choices or your decisions later to not do them. You might actually possess this attitude towards life that says, no regrets, everything is an experience, any opportunity to discover and learn something new is to be welcomed. But as I was trying to say just a moment ago, as you grow, as you get older, I think you learn how to control your impulses and your strong desires a little bit. Though, to be fair, perhaps you don't do this by intentional choice. Maybe you're forced to manage your impulses and your desires, because if you don't, you might suffer long-term consequences such as debt or health issues, or you might land yourself in trouble, possibly prison. Or you might ruin relationships that may be very helpful and beneficial for you in the long run. Oh yeah, I think you may be oblivious to just how changeable or fickle you can be sometimes, Sagittarius risings. But I also think that as reality does start to set in, you become more aware of where your actual loyalties lie and where your commitments lie. You become more in tune with your limitations and with your restrictions within your life, and how these things can actually be pretty good for you, how they can help you just feel more anchored, how they can ground you in a way. And to be honest, I can only imagine how much you've been struggling with the whole lockdown situation, with quarantine. I mean, you're typically not the types of people who accept restrictions and limitations. You like to know that you have the freedom to move and to explore, and that also you like your own space, you like your independence as well. I mean, it could be that your earlier years certainly reflected this for you. Still though, I think you're learning pretty valuable, lifelong, impactful lessons when it comes to things like making calculated risks or being cautious and realistic when making decisions. I think in a way you're learning valuable lessons when it comes to commitment. Now, this is not to say that you will never leap into things spontaneously. I mean, this is still a part of your self-identity. It's just more so about recognizing whenever you, let's say, you overspend, for example, then it puts you into some trouble. Or where you overeat far too much and then next thing your health is being impacted. Or when you just overdo it at work, or when you overcommit yourself to too many people or to too many things at once. Essentially, you can sometimes have this approach to life where it's like, I could do it all. I can manage everything and anything at once. And so you might push and push and push as you exert all your energy into taking on the day, but then you're hit with the reality of what your body can realistically do. So sure, you might be fueling up on coffee or on sugar to keep you going, but then eventually you might hit a wall, you might burn out. This could be mentally or physically, or you might go into overdrive where you're actually really, really overtired, but yet you can't help but keep going anyway, and then ooh, you crash. Or maybe you commit yourself to loads of people at once and then you realize, oh crap, yeah, I need to cancel, guys, sorry, I can't make that anymore. They're saying, as we're on this topic of energy levels, you may possess a lot of energy to burn through. You might have a high metabolism in this respect. And if this is the case, it's pretty important that you make time to eat. Though on the other hand, maybe for others of you, your energy levels, they deplete very quickly. You might use up your energy levels a lot faster than others, even if it is that you're very energetic. And so you might experience fatigue or tiredness relatively quickly. And if this is the case for you, maybe it's important for you to rest more, to relax more, chill out a bit more. Then again, maybe you sometimes don't listen to your body's instinct to rest, and instead what you do is you hit it more. You hit the body more with caffeine or sugar or possibly pills. And if you do this, Sagittarius risings, I would recommend proceeding with caution when it comes to your health and your well-being. Then again, maybe you are very hands-on, you're very practical when it comes to such things anyway. Maybe you enjoy looking up certain recipes to educate yourself on, for example. Or maybe you like to do plenty of research into your health and overall body. So yeah, you might be very much up to speed with such things, especially as you grow and you age into your older years. And to be honest, I mean, who am I to even say to a Sagittarius rising of what I recommend or think they should do? After all, you guys are probably pretty investigative people anyway, and you do like to seek out plenty of knowledge throughout your life. But still, following on from the point of the growing up and, you know, getting older and how you may be able to manage these things a lot better. Well, during your younger years, I think it all requires a bit of trial and error, okay? Though for more information into those energy levels, make sure to locate Mars, because Mars does rule over our energy levels within astrology. That placement of Mars may give a bit of a different story to what I'm saying, but it could certainly perhaps add to the story. Still, however, there is typically this happy-go-lucky enthusiasm when it comes to your overall demeanor and self-identity. You might be open to hearing differing opinions to your own, and you might be willing to try new things as a means of experimentation or as a means of intellectual growth anyways. So in this respect, you might actually like engaging in conversations with others who want to give their 2 cents, so to speak. But at the same time, this does not mean that you must follow other people's opinions and or advice. You like knowing that you have the freedom to make your own decisions and choices. You like knowing that you have the freedom of choice, the freedom of variety. And so if others try to impose their opinions of their views or their will onto you, you will most likely act pretty quickly as you run off in a whole different direction. See, the thing is that you're such a free spirit, and so if you ever sense that people are trying to box you in or fence you in, you simply won't stand for it. You might actually have this attitude towards life where it's like, my happiness must come first, because if I'm not happy, then I can't make other people happy around me. On the other hand, I think for some of you Sagittarius risings that having a child provides you with the highest form of happiness. Having a child fills you with meaning and direction. Then again, maybe for others of you, it's a creative project that serves others, that provides you with the highest form of happiness. Or maybe it's a certain religious or spiritual practice that speaks to your heart. Or maybe it's a particular country that you move to and you live in. Could be a mixture of all of these examples I mentioned. But essentially, there's something here about you seeking after the highest form of happiness. So you might sometimes ask yourself, what will truly make me happy? Or how can I seek out opportunities and experiences that will make me happy? And this is quite interesting because I mentioned this idea of the pursuit of happiness during the Sagittarius Sun segment, but I think when it comes to Sagittarius risings, this is like a journey for you. It's about self-discovery. Though I suppose the same could be said when it comes to Sagittarius Suns and when it comes to any Sagittarius placements for that matter. Seeing as Sagittarius does rule over the likes of adventure and questing and self-discovery, but still with you Sagittarius risings, it's a life path. And the thing about this is that the life path is often associated with the rising sign, and then the sun is more connected with the individual that we are striving to become. And so in this way, make sure that you are locating your sun sign for more information, and also keep in mind the other 11 houses as well within the chart. But still, when it comes to the ascendant, maybe your life path, Sagittarius risings, is that of discovering what it is that makes you happy, that brings you joy, what it is in life that gives you something to live for, what it is in life that makes you thrive, what it is that brings you a lot of passion. You know, what brings you passion and enthusiasm into your life? What awakens you in this respect? Also, what is it in life that inspires you and uplifts you? Perhaps these are questions to consider, especially given that throughout your life, you've experienced what it feels like to be silenced and pushed to the side in some respects. See, what others may not know when it comes to you is that you've went through your fair share of not being heard or listened to. Situations where you've been forced to stay quiet even though deep down you know the truth and you know the facts. Perhaps these repressed thoughts and emotions are what have pushed you to explore and discover. They've been the fuel in your stomach that have driven you to seek after new opportunities for yourself. So sure, you might be someone who jumps into action so enthusiastically and so optimistically, but beneath this demeanor, there's often many unspoken words. There's often moments left unsaid. Therefore, maybe another part of your life path is about being honest and truthful with yourself. When it comes to the opportunities that you take, it's all well and good being blunt and candid and straightforward with others, but what about when it comes to you and your wants and your direction? Now, I'm not saying that you must go at it alone, but I'm more referring to times whenever you let others down, whenever you're not being honest, for example, or times whenever you jump into action with blind faith without stopping to pause for a second to think about, like, is this actually what I want? Yeah, it's these types of things that I think that you're coming to discover about yourself as well, Sagittarius risings. Now, what's also good to keep in mind is the location of the chart ruler. Of course, your chart ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter can show you where you sort of quest for more knowledge, along with where you strive for happiness and for joy within your life. And likewise, it can give you some insight into those life path discoveries that I have been talking about. Though the last thing I just want to touch on is your wild and free, yet your larger than life physical appearance. Basically, you're the types of people who can dress down or dress up, whilst exemplifying an easygoing openness and enthusiasm. So you might easily wear no makeup whilst wearing your hair all wild, but then just as much, you might like putting on loads of makeup whilst you go all out with jewelry and accessories. You might have times whenever you just want to wear your comfy clothes that don't cost much, but then you might also have those times whenever you're wearing your most expensive outfit. Either way here, you can come across as someone who is in good spirits, as someone who is pretty easy to talk to, pretty laid back, pretty easy to get along with, and to be honest, you're someone who can brighten up anybody's day naturally. Not only though with your social skills, but also with that smiley open demeanor, with those smiley open mannerisms of yours. But also, I would say you can brighten up other people's days with your wit, with your humor, with your intellect. Yeah, you're very good at making others around you just feel welcomed, Sagittarius risings. And all you ask in return from others is that others don't try to take away your freedom. Okay, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about the differences between the Sagittarius Sun, the Sagittarius Moon, and the Sagittarius Rising. Now, if you happen to have any thoughts or opinions on today's video, then certainly let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then definitely make sure that you click that subscribe button and also give this video a like, remember, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!